Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about one of my personal favorite series. And it's actually a video that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and that is the Harry Potter movies. Now, I'm just going to admit it right off the bat, I cannot call myself a true Harry Potter fan because I've not read the books. Um, the reason being, I've never really been just a huge reader. I've had ADHD all my life, and comprehension's a little bit hard for me, but I just never really been a huge reader. However, that is starting to change. I'm definitely trying to get into more books, and I want to start with the Harry Potter series finally. So hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll have all of those read. So if you want to disregard half the things that I say or how they adapt from the books, feel free. I really don't mind. I actually like to hear your opinions on it. But it's still been a big part of my life. I've seen all of them in theaters. I remember seeing Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you're not from the U.S. I saw that when I was 9 years old at the old Senator Theater in Baltimore. I saw Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 at midnight, both in different theaters, like 30 minutes away. Not sure why, but it was definitely nuts. And it's just I grew up with these movies, watching them over and over again. I've learned how great they are. I've learned more about them, and just how fascinating the universe is, and some of the other stuff that I still need to check out. I really want to go check out Harry Potter World, but yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Um, One of the things that I like about it, just growing up with the characters, Emma Watson was actually like my first big movie crush. Still is, to be honest, and it's incredible. I love her so much. Um, I do also want to note that there will be spoilers in this, simply because chances are if you're watching it, you've seen them before, and I'm just going to go straight into it. So let's get started. I'm going to rank the Harry Potter movies from worst to best here. I also want to point out, while I'm doing this reviews and rankings and stuff, I don't hate any of these movies at all. To be honest, I love them. Every single one of them is great in their own merit. So just disclaimer, none of these are rated below an 8 out of 10. And that basically means excellent to me. So let's get going here. So starting at number 8, we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Now, I know that a lot of people really enjoy this one. Um, and just I didn't like the style of it, to be honest. It just the tone is different compared to the rest. It just feels more like a romantic comedy at a lot of parts. Not to mention that it is the second longest in the series, coming in at about 2.5 hours, a little bit over actually. Um, and there's just I don't know. It has some good things about it. I really don't like the whole Ron and Lavender thing. She's just a really annoying character. But it definitely progresses him and Hermione's relationship. Like when he wakes up in the hospital, or I guess, yeah, the hospital, let's just say, and he starts shouting her name while Lavender's there. And then there's the whole comment by Dumbledore. Then on the other part of it, Harry is going through everything with, Voldemort's back. He's getting ready to attack. He's just growing more powerful. And then, of course, at the end, we have the death of Dumbledore. Definitely one of the pinnacle moments of the series. I do know that one of the things, actually, going back to the book thing, that a lot of people were upset that they didn't actually feature Dumbledore's funeral. Apparently, that was a much bigger part of the book. And a lot of people didn't like that they kind of excluded it. And to be honest, I feel like you could feel it in the movie, even having not read the books. I kind of wanted more. They kind of just threw him off to the side, essentially. Obviously, he becomes a bigger part in Deathly Hallows, but it was a very somber way to end the movie. And I'm not exactly sure how the book ends. But yeah, that's number 8. Alright, so coming in at number 7, we've got Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, this is another one, uncoincidentally, the longest of the series, coming in at about 240 minutes. Now, Chamber of Secrets is still great. However, compared to the rest, it's just got some issues. We still got, Harry and as youngins, him, Ron, and Hermione are still very, very young, like actually like little kids, and it just I don't know. Like I said, I grew up with the series, so that's just it's awesome looking back. Um, it's got Gilderoy Lockhart was one of the new characters. Harry versus Draco in the Quidditch match, with his arm going. It had the first of the Horcruxes destroying of the Basilisk. Sorry, Tom Riddle's diary with the Basilisk Fang. Um, and it's just I don't know. It kind of drags it parts. I'm not gonna lie. Kenneth Brawl is great. It was actually Richard Harris's last movie as Dumbledore too. The whole thing with petrifying and the characters basically almost dying is it's pretty scary as a kid. I mean, there's some really terrifying stuff in there. Especially the scene in the Forbidden Forest with Aragog and all the spiders. I mean, I felt Ron's pain on that one. I was completely terrified as a kid. And nobody wants to be in front of a giant talking spider while his spider minions are chasing after you. Luckily, we have a flying car. And that whole scene was pretty awesome. The trailers really, I remember watching those and being amazed by that. That whole sequence is pretty great. We get our first appearance by Dobby. Everybody loves Dobby, and I'll get to more of him later. We find out that Ginny opened the Chamber of Secrets there, and she almost dies. The Phoenix, the Raven. It's just there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I don't want to talk down on the movie, but it has my favorite line of the whole series, and I think a lot of people's favorite, maybe the funniest as well. Um, with Weasley's dad at the beginning, him just saying like, the kid stole the car, and he's just like, "Oh, really? How'd it run?" And he's just really happy about it. And then he finds out that Harry's a Muggle, and he's like, "So what exactly is the function of a rubber duck?" Definitely one of the most random and funny lines in the series as a whole. It also has probably my favorite ending of all of them. Pretty weird to say considering it's so far down on the list, but it's just really happy. After they close the Chamber of Secrets, they're all in the hall, the Great Hall at the end. Um, we see Hermione came back. She's just like on the other side of the doors, and everybody just staring at her. She comes over, Harry and Ron, gives Harry a hug, sits there with Ron, like does the handshake, the first little indication of their relationship to come, and then all of a sudden Hagrid comes out. And it's kind of when there's like tears with joy moments. It's just really cool to watch. Considering we missed those characters for the last third of the movie, and then all of a sudden here they are, and everybody's cheering and happy. You can see the teachers' looks on their faces. It's just really, really a joyful experience. Sometimes it brings a tear to my eye. Not gonna lie, but there's number 7. And at number 6, we've got the one that actually used to be my least favorite for quite a while, and that is Order of the Phoenix. Now, I don't know what it was about Order of the Phoenix that I didn't really like, but I always just found it pretty bland. I know it kind of introduces a lot of characters, mostly the bad guys, Bellatrix Lestrange, who is by far more terrifying than Voldemort will ever be. You can tell she's got bloodlust in her body, in her eyes, in her movements, and she's just batshit crazy. Um, but I don't know. There's parts of it that I just don't really like. I know the beginning's pretty cool. There's the whole scene at the end with the in the snow globe room, I guess I want to call it, the thing that looks like the little like crystal ball. There we go. That whole scene's really awesome. Them chasing through it, getting attacked. And then we have, you know, everybody's starting to grow up a bit. We get introduced to Luna, who's also one of my favorite supporting characters of the series as it went along. And then the whole Dumbledore's army that they were building. All those scenes are a lot of fun. But this also did introduce probably the most hated character in Harry Potter, and that is Dolores Bitch Umbridge. Um, just watching that movie, it's so hard to like watch her scenes because she's such a despicable woman. She enforces all these rules and nobody cares, and she just stops at nothing, recruiting like the Slytherin people to be her slaves essentially. Um, and it's just with her ugly pink outfits. Ugh. But and it kind of sucks just because it's very somber again. Just Dumbledore getting kicked out of the school, everybody just having to fall under this dictator essentially. Even worse than when Snape became headmaster. Um, but it just, I don't know, there's a lot of parts of it that I just didn't either remember or I just found them more enjoyable. I think it was because it just progressed the story a little bit more. I know as far as the books go, once again, Order of the Phoenix was the longest book, I believe. Maybe Deathly Hallows beats it by 100 pages or so. Somebody correct me on that one. But this is the second shortest movie, coming in at about 210 minutes essentially. And I think that there's a lot that was missed from what I understand, or things that could have been expanded upon. But I'll let you guys leave it to that. So there's number 6. 5 more to go. All right, so coming in at number 5 here, we've got the one that started it all. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or as I mentioned, the Philosopher's Stone, because America has to be different from everybody else. Anyway, this one probably has the most nostalgia for me. As I said, it started everything. It brings back so many memories, and they're all good memories, and it's just always a delight to watch it again. It was one of those movies kind of where it pushed the boundaries, I'd say, for a PG rating for kids. Everybody kind of, it came out of nowhere, but there's a lot of scary stuff in there. The whole scene at the end with Voldemort basically attached to Quirrell's head, and then Harry essentially burning his face alive. That whole scene with the troll. We've got the three-headed dog. And there's just a lot of terrifying imagery in there. I know the one scene that actually freaks me out all the time is when he's in the forbidden section of the library, and he opens that book and it just starts like screaming. I still watch that part. I've watched it with headphones on, and it scared the shit out of me. But it's looking back, it's like really cool. Um, that's when Harry, Ron, platform 9 3/4, just hearing all these words for the first time and things like just it's introduced us to what we would call one of the best franchises of all time. Um, that Snape, Dumbledore, Richard Harris is Dumbledore, Hagrid. Nobody really knew what to expect as far as the adaptations would go, but everybody seemed to like it. Directed by Chris Columbus himself, who made Home Alone, a bunch of movies from my childhood, and he's even making a Five Nights at Freddy movie now, so that'll be interesting. But he really definitely kicked the series off in the right direction. We've got the amazing score by John Williams, of course, the ever great composers of our generation and of all time, really. And there's just so much to love about it. Harry's first Quidditch match, McGonagall. I love that whole scene. Draco being a dick to Neville, Neville being the little wimp that he is, but also standing up at the same time. And the first Quidditch match with the snitch. I love that scene so much, just watching it all the time. It's probably one of my favorites of the movie. And then, of course, the whole troll in the dungeon with Quirrell. That line always gets me. Definitely one of the best deliveries in the movie. And just hearing back, I remember playing the video games, like Lego Harry Potter, and even the ones that EA used to make. Those were awesome. But the wizard's chest, that was awesome as well. Everybody thought that scene was pretty cool, and gotta admit, I would play wizard's chest. We get the first look at the Forbidden Forest once again, and then the happy ending of everything coming together. The very first scene, there's just so much good about it, and I really gotta give it extra credit because it started everything. And the nostalgia it really hits home for me. There's just so much to love about it. We got all these little kids, I mean, and just to see where they ended up as their lives went on. This is what started their lives. This is what started the fandom for a lot of people, and you can never forget it for doing that. And coming in number fourth here is coincidentally the fourth entry in the series, and that is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, this one for the longest time was actually my favorite of the series. I'm not entirely sure why, but I just thought the Triwizard Cup was really cool, and it was definitely one of the more action-packed as the series went on, especially as a kid, and I really liked that a lot. Looking back here, I mean, it's still great, but it's not the best. It's still one of those movies, though. It's the first that we actually saw of Voldemort again, and that scene is great. I'll get to that in a little bit, actually. Um, but I think this is where the series started to get a little bit darker. It was nice to be introduced to all the new characters here. Like Victor Crumb, Fleur, the other schools. Things just get a lot more dark. There's the whole underwater scene with Harry basically almost dying, saving the other girl's little sister. Really sweet. Him almost dying by a dragon. Um, Hagrid becoming a teacher, and we've just got you know um, the final match, the maze. That scene is just really really hard to watch, just because of how tense it is. We first see Voldemort back in the flesh, I guess, killing Cedric Diggory, which I believe was also one of the it might have been the most major death at that point in the series. Um, and the first we really got to see of Hufflepuff as well. But watching that, it's just really hard because the part where he manages to get back and like everybody's cheering and stuff because they see Harry, and then all of a sudden they realize that there's a dead kid next to him. And then everybody starts freaking out, including the kid's father, and Harry himself. And it's really deep and kind of emotional. And then we've just got the whole side story with Ron and Hermione. That's when their relationship starts to blossom a little bit more. Her being jealous that Ron didn't ask her to the ball and going with Victor Crumb instead. And it's also the second longest in the series, I believe. Let me double check that. Yes. Okay, it is. Sorry, it is the second longest, coming in at just over 2 hours and 30 minutes. But that doesn't mean that none of that is enjoyable because I love it. I love all of it. The beginning, with Ron's family, I love getting to see them. There's the whole scene with the boot travel. I forgot what that's called, but they end up at the Quidditch tournament, and then we meet the Death Eaters for the first time. A lot of stuff happens. Definitely great. But look forward to my top three because that is coming up now. And at numero trace, we've got Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, this one always used to be, I believe it kind of switched between Order of the Phoenix and this as my least favorite, for many reasons, actually, and many of which is why I love it now. It's definitely probably the least action-packed movie of the entire series. Um, but that's why it's great. Is it because it really just dives right into the story? We've got Harry, Hermione, and Ron basically discovering all the Horcruxes, and now they're on the journey to destroy all of them. Um, and it's a very Harry and Hermione focused story. Ron kind of leaves halfway through just because he doesn't believe what's happening. He doesn't think that he should be risking his life for Harry like they are. And to be honest, I mean, of the main three, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that Rupert Grint is the least favorite. Ron, just as a character, isn't really that great. Um, and it's always nice to see Emma Watson on the screen. Apparently, even I know during Deathly Hallows, Daniel Radcliffe was apparently drunk for like half the filming, and apparently he said that if you watch it, you could probably tell which scenes he was drunk in. And I kind of wanted to go back and watch it again just to see that. But that's beside the point. Um, we get to see more of the Polyjuice Potion this time. The story gets deeper again, and it's just really overall a lot of fun. Um, I know the one scene that stands out in particular is one of the scene with Harry and Hermione dancing in the tent. They're both, she's just, you can tell she's depressed. She misses Ron. So Harry just picks up her hand and they start dancing to a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And it's just a really good scene. It might take you out of the story for a minute or two, but it really needed to. Just shows that, like, the friendship that those two have, and how much they care about each other. And then of course there's the awesome opening scene with everybody taking the Polyjuice potion and pretending to be Harry. That whole scene's pretty great. Not only because it's fun to watch, but just seeing everybody's reaction to being Harry, especially Fred and George. And I forgot how many people died in both Deathly Hallows movies. I did not realize how many like important characters kicked the bucket, or I guess got Avada Kedavra. And I know this one had the biggest punch of them all. Believe it or not, the saddest moment of the entire series is the death of Dobby. Um, they really didn't show much of him throughout the series, but everybody loved him when he was on screen. And of course, at the very end, he ends up saving the lives of 5 people, only for him to get killed by Bellatrix. And it's a really sad scene. Harry wants to, properly bury him without any magic. Dumbledore had just died, and I think a lot of people can agree that they cried when watching that. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It just really packs an emotional punch to your heart. A character that everybody loves to see go. And that'll be continued in my next part here. So I bet you can guess what's number 2. Alright, and then coming in at number 2 here, we have the final entry in the series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Look at the little cover. Anyway, so this was the giant conclusion that everybody waited for. I know the time difference between part 1 and part 2 were very, very hard for a lot of people, myself included. But we all know that the payoff was extremely worth it. Now, there's just so much good stuff in this movie. I actually was debating putting it at number 1, but I'll get to the next entry and I'll explain why that one edges out this. Um, but yeah, so the opening scene this time we've got Hermione pretending to be Bellatrix Lestrange, trying to get into the Gringotts vault. That whole sequence there is just really, really tense. With the whole, we finally get to see more of the mine system, I guess, the little cart. Um, more of the vaults that took us back. I believe we hadn't seen since the first one when Harry went to his vault and got the Sorcerer's Stone. And, Griphook, we finally got to see more of him and kind of how much of an asshole he was. But luckily he didn't make it either. And, half the time there's so much action here. Snape's headmaster, Dumbledore's been dead. Voldemort has the Elder Wand of this. He's more powerful, and Harry and Hermione and Ron on the quest to destroy, at this point, I believe 5 more Horcruxes, 4 more. And of course they succeed. But it's really tense the way that they get to it. There's the final essential battle. All the teachers putting like the shield around Hogwarts was really cool. I know Professor McGonagall using that one spell that she always wanted to use. I'm not gonna remember what it is, but it's just a really funny scene. We've got Molly Weasley with the whole "not my daughter, you bitch." I know everybody kind of laughed in the theater when that came on, and then of course Neville being basically coming out of nowhere and being an extreme badass. They really expected that. I know the one scene that everybody freaked out about was the first kiss between Ron and Hermione after he saves her life. And I don't know about that. That relationship kind of just the whole way. I feel like Harry and Hermione should have been together. Ron and hers felt kind of forced. And then Harry and Ginny's relationship just it doesn't really work for me. But I mean that's the way J.K. Rowling wanted it. People accepted it. I mean, but personally, they're just really awkward together. which basically leads me, Draco kind of saves Harry's life, and then Harry ends up saving his life. And then, of course, we've got the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort. Basically, Harry almost sacrificing himself just because he knew that they were in time to defeat the last Horcrux. And then Harry realizing that he was one as well. We've got the whole backstory of Snape, which is actually pretty damn emotional as well. Him realizing that technically Dumbledore was, just waiting for him to die at some point, knew that Harry needed to die, and that Snape loved his mother so much that he did anything he could to protect Harry, including a lot of bad stuff to Harry essentially, but it all makes up for it at the end. Like I said before, I did not realize how many people died. Fred dies, Lupin, his wife, um, Snape, of course, Lavender dies, just a couple other randoms. Luckily, like McGonagall and Harry and them, none of them die. Um, and then, of course, the one scene that I used to not really like, but now I thought it was actually really emotional as well, is the epilogue, of the kids, as everybody as adults sending their kids off to Hogwarts for the first time. Yes, the makeup and stuff's a little weird, but I still actually think that it really ends the series on a high note. It's just a really happy moment, knowing everybody's smiling, happy together with kids. Their kids are friends. We even see Malfoy for a minute, and then just knowing that the series could be continued if J.K. Rowling wanted to, and I just thought that that was really sweet, and it was the perfect way to wrap up the series. And then coming in at number one, we've got Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, this one has honestly been my favorite since the very beginning. There is just so much happening in this movie, and it's honestly one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's damn near perfect, as far as characters, storytelling, just everything. And the reason it edges out Prisoner of Azkaban, or sorry, Deathly Hallows 2, is the end, like the last 40 minutes or so. But I'll get to that later. So here we've got basically, I think there's a little bit of a gap between Prisoner of Azkaban and Chamber of Secrets. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione are a little bit more grown up at this point. And I was as well. So it was cool to see them. I know this is where my crush on Emma Watson really blossomed. Just seeing her grown up, and everybody in the theater cheered when she punched Draco in the face. Um, but we've got, the whole Sirius Black thing, Harry finding out that he's actually his uncle. The whole scene with the Whomping Willow, we've got the werewolves, the Dementors at the beginning. Those things were terrifying for a while. After Harry the whole time, the whole scene between Lupin, the Animagus, between everybody, Peter Pettigrew, the Marauders map scene, that's always really fun to watch. And then, we also get introduced to other characters, like Sirius. This was the first appearance of Michael Gambon as Dumbledore after Richard Harris had passed away. And I think that Gambon was a lot better, just considering like later in the series, I don't think Richard Harris could have been that mobile, I guess, or had the necessary spryness to like do the yelling scenes and stuff like that. Um, and that was different. A lot of people, it felt different, for many, including myself. But the really perfect thing about it is the whole story with the Time Turner. Probably one of the most creative storytelling elements ever. I mean, time travel, you can either screw it up or have it really perfect, and they did not screw it up here. McGonagall giving it to Hermione so that she could just, take her classes twice. So she wanted to go to all of her classes. Obviously showing how much of a great student she is, and then realizing like, wait a second, so that's how you've been showing up. Because there's a lot of scenes, I think it happens like 3 or 4 times where like we're trying to find her, and then all of a sudden she's like sitting next to Ron or sitting next to Harry, trying to figure out what the hell, like, where'd you come from? Um, but that whole sequence was just really, really cool with the Whomping Willow, them saving Buckbeak's life, almost running into each other. There's just so much fun to be had in this one, and I just really, really, really love it. I believe it's also a fan favorite as well, which leads me to basically the conclusion here. I mean, as I've said, Harry Potter is just a big part of my life. I know it's been a big part of a lot of other people's life. Am I missing anything, guys? Tell me what you think. What are the most faithful adaptations from the books? What do what is your favorite? What is your least favorite? How do you rank them? Come on, guys, hit me in the comments. I really want to hear more discussion about this. Teach me more about the Harry Potter universe. But other than that, guys, take care, and I will definitely be watching these over and over and over again.